Just a little background for the audience and the people at home, where the board started with our superintendent search. We had, after the posting of 2 weeks, we had 17 resumes turned in. We spent one long night going through all of them and came down to 5 finalists, 3 internal and 2 external. And as of yesterday, both of our external candidates have backed out, sending us a letter of withdrawal. So we are moving forward with our 3 internal candidates, and we have number 3 here today. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to welcome Ms. Susan Cybulla. She is currently president, principal of Marine City High School.
I like it.
Our format is we'll take about 60 minutes. We'll do an interview. We'll have specific questions that all of the board members will be asking. There will be about 25. Toward the end, we'll give the candidate an opportunity to ask questions of the board. Questions may be submitted by the audience, if you so please. Opportunity will be provided for candidates' closing statement. And Ms. Demick will keep us aware of time, which we don't watch anymore.
Kind of.
We didn't do it last night, so. Tuesday. Our opening question. While we have had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. Would you briefly review your background and what causes you to be interested in this position at this point in your career?
Certainly. First of all, thank you, President Beaver, members of the board, for the opportunity to interview tonight. I am a graduate of St. Clair High School. After St. Clair High School, I went to Michigan State University, to Ferris State University, and then I started my teaching career in Walled Lake Consolidated Schools in Oakland County. I was a student teacher for Walled Lake Schools, and then they hired me as a full-time biology and chemistry teacher. I spent approximately 9 years with the Walled Lake Schools, and I had a variety of roles and responsibilities in addition to teaching. I like very much to be part of new initiatives and new things that are happening in education. And one of the new things that was going on there, and none of my colleagues are going to find this a surprise, but we were doing PLC work there. I talk about it often, and I hope for it to be a part of East China Schools' plan someday. But what we were doing there, we had Richard DeFore come in and speak to us as a group about forming professional learning communities. And so I became one of their teacher leaders for the science department. We had 150 teachers in our building, and so I became the teacher leader for our science department and was able to be on the forefront of that initiative, writing the common assessments, aligning our curriculum to be discussed with data within the PLC format. I also became part of our 9th grade academies, which is where we had 4 core teachers who taught the same group of 9th grade students. And we did it because our school was large. At the time, we were about 2,200 students, and this made a small community for our incoming 9th graders so they could feel like they were a part of something and not this big, huge, large high school. And what we did is we had group activities. We as a team, the 4 teachers, core teachers on these 9th grade academies, we got to have planning time that was the same so we could discuss the students, go over how they were doing in each of our classes, make adjustments for students. If someone wasn't doing well in my class at a particular hour, we could shift them around. So 9th grade academies, and at the end of the year, we took those students to Europe and traveled around and did some neat things there. Yeah, it was a really, really good time, and it really brought those 9th graders into our school and made them feel welcome and a part of something and not just in this big, huge, large building. So professional learning communities, which that was my biggest role. 9th grade academies, we did that. And then let's see, about 6 years in at Walled Lake, they decided they needed another high school. We were getting too large, the community was growing, and so at that time I was doing my administrative internship with the principal that was going to open Walled Lake Northern, Dr. Janelle McGuire. So through the process of my internship with her, I got to be a part of a lot of the meetings and community functions and board meetings of the decisions for this new high school that was being built. And that was exciting to see how they handled that with their expansion and how they would have to, divide up this big community. And so with the new high school being built, with my internship with Dr. McGuire, she invited me to be part of the opening team for the new high school. So I was one of the new science teachers that were able to open the school, and that was really cool. To watch these, we rolled it open with 9th and 10th graders, to watch them come in and be a part of this new community was neat, interesting, and very exciting. So after that, I was the JV golf coach for Walled Lake Northern and enjoyed that very much. And then my husband owned a software company, and he had sold it. It was bought out, and we decided we needed a new adventure. So we bought a restaurant in northern Michigan. And so with the move north, I was hired by Traverse Bay Area Intermediate School District as a school improvement consultant. And I was given the opportunity to work with the four school districts in Leelanau County. That would be Suttons Bay, Leland, Northport, and Glen Lake. And if you're familiar with Leelanau County at all, that Northport and Leland are K-12 buildings and very small. And so my role as the regional improvement school consultant was to align curriculum. At that time, the Michigan Merit Curriculum was being rolled out, and they were needing help in that area. They were needing help with some of this new school improvement initiatives, and they had adopted NWEA countywide or ISD-wide, and they were needing some direction with that. We had also, at that time, rolled out the RTI, which MTTS for Michigan, Response to Intervention model, and that was part of my responsibilities as well. So with my new 4 county schools, I spent a day or two in each district throughout my week helping them with those initiatives. I would meet with teacher groups. We would do professional development. I would meet with the administrative groups, and I did a lot of presentations to school boards about where we were headed and what kind of support was going to be needed to move the initiatives forward, and that was a lot of fun. It was very interesting coming from Walled Lake schools with 2,200 students in a building to a K-12 building in Northport that had a total of 160 students. Because when you're trying to align curriculum or write common assessments or create professional learning communities in a building that size, it looks very different than when you're doing it for a larger building. The needs are no less, but the differences in how you address those needs is different. And it was an interesting, good time when I was in Leelanau County. One of the capstone things that I did there, I was in charge of a countywide professional development day, which meant I had all 4 districts that would come to a professional development. We held it in Suttons Bay because that was our largest building that we could house people. And I did it around best practices, professional learning communities, and looking at data. And to this day, they continue to have a countywide PD day to bring those 4 schools together so they can start to support each other in their endeavors, because they are small and one district can't do it all. So I spent great times in Leelanau County, got them to a point where they could move forward with the initiatives that they wanted support in. And Kalkaska County, which is further to the west, was in need of some school support. So my boss at the time, Mike Hill, and the Assistant Superintendent, Karen Skudronsky, approached me and said, would you consider moving to Kalkaska County and doing something similar for those 3 districts? And because of my experience with a multi-district format, I said, sure, why not? It's interesting for me to see these different districts and how they run. Kalkaska was able to put some of their teacher leaders in place and continue with the initiatives that we had started. They understood them better and felt comfortable doing that. So I moved over to Kalkaska County, which is Mansalona School District, Kalkaska School District, and Forest Area. And their needs were very different. They had a different population, and so again, the alignment of the curriculum, the strategies for using their budgets, which were smaller, and how their teachers needed professional development looked different, how we handled that. So again, I'd spend different days in each district getting them to their goals that we had set. And then I think it was a year or two in, Forest Area Community Schools offered me the position as their middle school, high school principal. And so I went back to the ISD and talked to my bosses and asked what they thought of that, and they thought it was a great move. They brought someone else in to do the county-wide PD, and I became an high school principal for Forest Area. And then after, I think I was there a year, they really were having some financial difficulties and wanted me to become their superintendent. The superintendent was retiring and asked if I would assume the role of superintendent for them. But me, having been their regional consultant, or school improvement consultant, having been their middle school and high school principal, I knew that this district couldn't take on a superintendent and a high school principal at the time. They needed some serious restructuring of how their money flow was being handled. So I proposed to the board that yes, I absolutely love to be your superintendent, but how about we try it with me being the high school principal and your superintendent for 1 year to give us some immediate fiscal relief. And I also had a good handle on the initiatives, the PLCs, the response to intervention. We were having all those things ongoing. So they said, yes, we'll try it for the year and see how it goes. So that's what we did. And during my year in Forest Area as their combined superintendent and principal, we did a lot of really, I think, innovative restructuring initiatives to get that school district on an even keel. Their current percent of fund balance is 17, and though I will never take credit because their current superintendent is amazing and he deserves all the credit, I think a lot of the structuring that we did prior to that gave them that base. What we did is their business services, the current business manager, she was retiring, and helped us with an idea that I had, which was, could we combine our business services with the intermediate school district and have a co-relationship with them where maybe they could do our check processing, do our payroll processing, and bring someone out here maybe 1 or 2 days a week for services to the staff. All right, so we sat down, we negotiated a contract, and we came up with this idea where they did about 90% of our business services, and then we had a business representative from the ISD come out 2 days a week, be in the office, and provide services for our staff. And the board at the time had a lot of trepidation about that change. They were unsure, but we had a lot of conversations. We brought in people from the ISD to the board meetings to talk about it, to see if this was a feasible solution to some of their fiscal needs. And we did it, and it is still the model that they follow today. And as a matter of fact, the business representative from the ISD that serviced Forest Area now does the neighboring district of Kingsley. It was such a successful model that they've adopted it. So we did that. The other thing that immediately was done is I closed down their central office. It was a building that was off-site, on the campus, but off-site a little bit. And I thought it would better be served if we brought it into one of the buildings. We had some office space that would work. So we closed down that building and then brought the services and restructured the offices. And in that move, it allowed us to rethink all of the services we were providing and how could we do it more efficiently. So it worked out really well to move those offices over. And then the third big initiative was for Forest Area during that time was we wrote a grant to Munson Medical Center for a teen health center to be right there on our campus, because one of the needs that was immediately seen was students were needing health care or social services care, and we were quite a ways away from Traverse City, which was where they were provided. So the grant was awarded. We had a teen health corner built right there on campus, and so we had doctors and social service providers out there 5 days a week that the students could see on a daily basis. So in that year's time, we did quite a bit of changing and restructuring and set them up to be at a point where they can function without the worry of the fiscal responsibility. So during that time, my husband and I, when we're quite a team and we decide to do all things together, we have a daughter. She's in first grade, and I wanted her to go to school in East China School District. And we were running this business. I'm running a school district, and I informed my husband that we're moving back downstate to St. Clair. And we're going where? He's not from here. You know, this was, okay, all right. So I get the great pleasure of being the principal at Marine City High School, which is really means a lot to me. Both my parents and grandparents graduated from Marine City High School, and so it had a lot of emotional significance for me to be able to come back and be a part of that. Been down here 4 years. My husband, we've sold our business. My husband is home with our daughter, and he would be here tonight as a cheerleader for me, but he coaches the Marine City golf team, and they have their first match tonight. So he's with me here in spirit. But that leads me back to where I am now, here with all of this experience and all of these neat things that I've done, ready to apply for superintendent, ready to show you some really neat things that I think that we can do together as a team. This is an amazing district, but I do have some ideas where I think that we could even improve upon how amazing we are. So that's my brief answer to question number 1.
24 more to go.
You want to get the time clock out?
Yeah. There could be a gong or.
Well, we'll move into the next section for instruction and curriculum.
Yep.
And I'll ask you a few questions about that.
Sure.
Please explain how students can achieve outstanding levels of achievement at all grade levels. Specifically, provide examples of initiatives that you have led and results that you have achieved.
Okay. Well, the one thing that I feel the most passionately about is teacher collaboration. When you get a group of teachers in a room, it's unbelievable the things that come out of there and the results that you achieve. One of my other roles at the ISD in Traverse City was I taught the PLC class. Every teacher that was hired into the ISD up there had to attend the Professional Learning Communities class. Because it was an ISD initiative, everyone was doing it at their own level in their districts. So I taught the class, which was offered through Central Michigan University, and each district, depending on their size or circumstances, when they got their teachers working together around a common mission and vision, the things that would happen for students and for them, for the support that the teachers gave each other, was incredible. Whether you're spending that time looking at data, which is a central function of professional learning communities, or whether you're looking at your common assessments, or whether you're discussing students' needs or teacher needs. There's times that teachers need to rely on each other when they seem to have hit a wall or they're in a spot where they need some help. These professional learning communities that happen normally on a regular basis throughout a school calendar, are amazing tools for moving student achievement forward.
What is your philosophy regarding effective professional development for staff?
Well, again, see? I go back to.
You just told us.
Yes.
But is there anything you would like to add?
Yes, of course. But when you have those, when teachers are making driving the decision-making, when teachers are letting administrators know this is what we need, and the administrators are then the facilitators of those needs, again, the results that you get in a building are phenomenal. And you almost feel like a calmness come over a building when teachers know that they will have time to talk to each other, to collaborate, to discuss students, because normally those conversations have to happen in the hallway, you know, or during lunch, or on the off chance I might meet you at a copy machine. When they know that it's a consistent time for them, an agenda that's driven by them, the results are amazing. And from those discussions, the PD drives itself. So if I have teachers meeting in PLCs and they report back to the administrators, man, we need more help with, you know, our data processing or our analysis of data, then I know the PD needs to be around data, you know, analysis. So where those discussions go within the teacher collaboration time drives the PD that they tell me that they need.
How would you go about evaluating the effectiveness of curriculum assessments and teaching methods in the district?
The way to evaluate, first of all, a curriculum needs to be aligned, and it needs to be aligned to whatever assessment you're using to drive your data from. So if you feel comfortable with your aligned curriculum and you have assessments that are supported by that aligned curriculum, you can take the data from those assessments and find out whether or not students, and I like very much the standards-based assessments so that I know students are achieving specifically where they're at. Not, you know, I got an 89%. Well, I don't know what that tells me. Do you know one standard really well, and there were 14 questions on the test over a particular standard, or do you know each of the standards that you're expected to know really well? So I think that the alignment process, the assessment process, and then how we look at the data from those assessments would let me know how well students are doing.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a few community relations questions for you.
Okay.
How would you go about establishing and maintaining positive public relations with our community?
I can talk to you about what I did in the past, and that's probably exactly what I would do going forward. And that is, again, when we create time for teachers to collaborate, to make these great strides, we also need to create time for our community to give us feedback, to let us know as administrators what you want to happen for your district going forward. So specifically, it would be some type of community forum or a time for the community to come in and be a part of, whether it's individual school buildings or the central office as a whole. But they, I believe, need to be heard. You know, they need to know that what they're saying is helping us to make decisions, is helping us to think about what new initiatives or new things need to happen or problems that need to be solved. But creating a specific time for that to happen so people can depend on it. So it isn't, they're not waiting to accidentally bump into a principal at a game. You know, there needs to be a designated time for them to know if I have something I need to say, that they'll have time to do that. Okay.
Could you share with us ways in which you have accomplished successful communication with the community regarding either a school or district's problems or accomplishments?
Yes, sure. While I was in Forest area, our district was in dire need of a technology update, and we went to our community and asked them to pass a technology bond. And during the time when I was their superintendent, I needed to be out there explaining to them exactly what that meant. And so I spent a lot of time in community meetings. I went to their places of gathering, and I also opened up our buildings for luncheons and dinners and coffees and had them come in and talk to us. And it was interesting because initially when we asked for this technology bond to be passed, that it didn't look really like this was going to happen for us. But the more discussion that happened, the more explaining, the more understanding that we were able to establish, they became part of our team. They became part of, we need this, our students need this, our district needs this to move forward. And so by the time the actual vote happened, I really didn't have to be out there as much because we had communicated in a really strong way exactly what was needed, and it was a tough economic time. This was not a time that was easy for them, and they did. We passed the technology bond, and the hardest part about that was the initial thing you need to do when you pass a technology bond is the infrastructure. So here we had, so we're going to do a one-to-one initiative with iPads, and we did do all of those things, but the very first thing we had to do was upgrade the infrastructure, and that's not very exciting. There wasn't pictures we could take, but they trusted us, and because of, I believe, our open communication, we were able to get the job done, and everybody felt good about it and felt that we were on the right path.
What school and community activities will you be visible at?
As many as I can. This is, I mentioned I graduated from St. Clair High School. I grew up in their gym. That was Friday nights, it was popcorn and watching the games and being a part of the community. Like I said, my husband coaches the golf team. This is a family event for us, a family way of living. My father was on this board for 12 years, and I understand the importance of, if you are going to lead a school district, you have to be available for people to talk to you, to see that you believe this is important. And beyond all that, I just love watching the kids. I love being there. I love being a part of it. And so as many as I can get to, you will see me at.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to move down here now.
Oh, hi.
I know we kind of start off going down the line and then we skip a bunch. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions about political awareness. So obviously these were not all that randomly chosen.
Probably not.
The first one is, what do you feel is the superintendent's role in influencing state and federal processes impacting K-12 education?
I think now more than ever, we have to have our voices heard. We have to be a part of this decision-making process, because I don't know quite how it got to the point where it is now that we aren't as well heard as we have been in the past, but we have to be heard. We have to be a part of the decision-making process. And in my career, initially, I was a part of the Michigan Merit Curriculum Initiative and was on the committee that wrote the science assessments, the biology section of the science assessments. And that was a very political process, and it was very eye-opening for me to see that it wasn't a bunch of educators making these decisions about what was going to be in my science assessment. It was politicians and people who maybe had never worked in a classroom before. And so, although I think everybody's input is important, and I think even if you're not in education or an educator, you should have some input, but by gosh, the educators need to lead these discussions. They need to be a part of what is happening, and we can't be shy about that. We can't think that we have to wait for someone else to make that decision. We have to be a part of that decision-making process.
Number two, what impact do you feel the current gubernatorial administration and the legislature is having on our schools in Michigan?
I'll focus on the positive here, and I like the preschool initiative. I like the money that is being applied to, because I feel strongly that is extremely important, that everyone is able to access education as early as they want to or can. So I think that's important. I'm really liking the skilled trades push that we have, that he's looking to build up Michigan's economy in a way that allows for the skilled trades to be part of that. Whether it's through the STEM program or through the career technical centers where money is being used, I think that is extremely important. I'm seeing, the at-risk funding was proposed to increase, and some high school funding, and closing the gap on the foundation allowance a little bit. So I'm going to focus on the positive here and say I like those things. I like what I'm seeing there.
May I ask a follow-up to that? Is that I appreciate the positive. Can I get a little bit of negative just to get kind of your more inside your head on what we're doing at the state level?
Sure. I wish educators had a voice in the decision-making process.
Okay, next one. You talked a little bit about your involvement in the merit curriculum development. Can you expound on any other involvement in the state political process that you've had?
Sure. I've always been, whatever level I've been in the education community, I've involved myself in the committee that supports that. So as a teacher, I was a union representative for my building, and that was a good role for me to see and a good role for me to be in, because it showed me, some pieces and parts of education that I hadn't seen before, and I thought that was important. Then when I worked at the ISD, we had a lot more state involvement. We were expected to attend a lot of meetings in Lansing, and we were expected to be a part of those conversations. So I served on a variety of committees, special education committee, and within that, the caveat that I was responsible for bringing back to my ISD was a co-teaching model, where special education teachers and co-teachers work together within a general education classroom. And so that was that. And then as a principal, MASSP, we go and involve ourselves as much as we can, again, get our voices heard. And then as a superintendent at MASA, and then in northern Michigan, it's kind of nice. It's a real pretty area. There's lakes and things, and the politicians came to visit us quite a bit. It wasn't hard to get them to come up north, and so we would have nice retreats, and they would come and let us be part of the conversation. So
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
The last one is, at the local level, can you describe a situation where you made a decision that at the time was unpopular, but you knew it was the best thing for the school you were working for? Unpopular decisions obviously can come with a lot of resistance, but how did you handle that resistance, and what did you do to overcome it in order to get everybody on board and behind your decision?
I have two examples. The first one I'll use is initially, again, when I took on the added responsibility of high school principal and superintendent in Forest area to give that quick fiscal relief. We also had to make a decision to cut one of our fine arts programs. We just couldn't support it at the time, and we had to cut our band program, and it was heartbreaking and hard. And I had the television stations and everyone in my office wanting to know why this was happening, and it was very difficult. But how I got through it and how we got through it as a community and as a school district is we knew that if we could just get our footing, that we would bring it back with a bang. And we did. And so it was 2 years, or 1 year without it. We had someone help us after school, volunteered their time, and then we were able to bring it back once we got a little bit better fiscal footing underneath us. And so that was, at the time, it felt really awful. But how I knew we would get through it is I could see the numbers, I could see if we could get there, that we would be able to bring it back. And we were, and we did. And so, and they actually just went to states for the first time ever this year. So I'm very proud of them, and it was a difficult time. The other situation was in Mansalona. They were really struggling with their reading scores. They were just not performing. And they couldn't figure it out because the ISD, prior to me being out there, had supported the whole county, the whole ISD with a reading program that was supposed to be the Cadillac of reading programs. I mean, this was it. This was going to solve, and it wasn't working for them. And so we looked at the data, we looked at the scores, we looked at the curriculum. We could not figure out where it was falling down. And so what we decided after many discussions is the K-5 teachers were going to adopt a very scripted open court reading program, and many of the teachers were resistant to it because it is very scripted. It doesn't leave any room to do anything other than what is outlined for you. And so, again, a lot of conversations, a lot of discussion, a lot of how are we going to get through this, or make this happen. And we did it. And within 2 years of using the open court program, their test scores were dramatically increasing. And they actually had a district from Charlevoix, Charam, ISD come observe their school, which then gave those teachers this sense of pride and sense of, accomplishment that someone else was coming to observe them with this reading program. And it was hard. They weren't really ready to give, some of the teachers, to give up that program. But through conversation and through discussion, we were able to get them there. So those are my 2 examples.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have some questions regarding leadership.
Mm-hmm.
If you could please describe your typical style of leading and talk about situations in which you might have to vary from that style.
Well, my style has always been getting as much input. That's why I think that the collaboration communities are so important to me, because until I can make a decision, I need to know where everyone is at. And so gathering input, listening to where people are feeling, meeting people where they're at, understanding the individual needs. I take all of that into consideration, and depending on my role, if I'm playing the role of principal, I might have to make a decision based on budgetary constraints. I might have to make a decision based on staffing, room location, whatever situation that we're dealing with. I'd have to take all of those things into account, but I always make sure I hear everybody first before I make a decision. And then the decision may not be exactly what one or everyone was hoping for, but I will make the decision that I think is best in that situation. And sometimes that's hard.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What specific capabilities and qualities would you bring to this position that would set you apart from the other applicants?
Well, I do believe I have a unique, and the path road up to, Traverse City and back down, and all the 7 different districts I got to work in, that I think I bring a very unique set of skills to the table. I think that I have a leadership style that brings out or emphasizes the best in those that work with me and around me. I'm very adamant about supporting those around me and making sure that they have the tools and the things that they need to be successful. And if I notice someone doesn't have what they need, I try to find it for them. I try to research or look for avenues for them to do their best work. So I guess that the unique opportunities that I've had in the different districts, the different levels that I've worked, you know, having been a teacher in a large system, a consultant in all different size schools, my ability to work at a county-wide level, to work at a building level, these are all things that I've been blessed with these experiences, but I bring them all back here. And I'm hoping that you'll give me the opportunity to use them in a way to move East China forward.
Thank you. So how would you go about helping us set the bar higher to move us forward?
When it comes to setting the bar higher, I take a little bit of a different tact with that phrase. We can set the bar as high as you want, you know, but where I would like us to see work is building the supports for the students underneath to raise them up to the bar. Just moving the bar itself doesn't do much as far as student achievement. But if you want to truly increase student achievement, you look for what they need. You look at the data, you talk to the students, you have the teachers collaborating, and then you build the supports to bring the kids up to the bar that you want them to reach. But I think a lot of times we'll set a bar, you know, whatever it may be, and then wonder why we're not achieving there. And so when you have a response to intervention system, which is intervention techniques to help kids get where they need to be, which the bar, or if you have professional learning communities that have teachers working together to get those kids up to where you want them to be, or you're using data sets that are real-time data, you know, not something that happened 2 months ago, but it happened yesterday, and you can use that data to make decisions about where you want kids to be. I think it's great that we raise the bar, but I truly feel that we need to raise the supports before we do that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with setbacks and failure to achieve any of the goals you've set?
I think I do it with good grace and humor, because I know that sometimes, you know, when I set a goal or set the bar high for myself, that it wasn't meant to be or wasn't meant to happen. I can give you an example of a program that I wanted to start in Leelanau County, and I didn't realize the extent to which the schools liked their individuality with some of the programming that they had. And I was trying to offer a centralized class in Chinese, and they didn't really want that. And I put a lot of legwork into it and got the materials, got the curriculum, the kids weren't interested in it because they had to meet at a location that wasn't their school. So we readjusted and we came up with a different way of doing it. It was not online type of format, but that was hard. I really wanted that to be a go, and it didn't. But it isn't about what I wanted to have happen. I wanted it for the students, and I just had to adjust my thinking.
Thank you. So given your knowledge on our district, what do you believe our vision for the future should be? And how might you engage the entire school community in pursuit of the vision?
I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I really would like to see the teachers in East China have a greater role in the decision-making process for what happens in their buildings. And that happens through these collaborative communities that meet on a regular basis. And when the teachers who are in the classrooms with the students are a part of that, or actually driving that process, I see us being able to move forward quicker. East China is an outstanding school district. Our scores are high across the board in every category. And that is being achieved because the teachers in your buildings know exactly what they're doing. And can you imagine if we were allowing them to take that expertise and work collaboratively together to drive the decision-making within our district? I think with that kind of vision, we could move forward quicker, because when you have teachers working together in that format, in a regular collaborative community, you start to figure out exactly what is needed. You know, maybe we are doing things the same old way that we've been doing things, and we don't need to do that anymore. And they will tell us we don't need to do that anymore. Or maybe there's something that we want to try, and we need to know what that is. So I think the vision that I have is taking this incredible expertise that we have and pulling it together and driving the decision-making and the intervention programs that we need to put in place to move us forward quickly. We're going to continue moving forward. The district does a fantastic job, and every data set will show you that. But I would like to be more than fantastic. I would like us to move forward at a faster rate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is my last question. Could you tell us what you believe are the most immediate challenges that we face as a district?
The most immediate needs that we face right now, from the perspective that I have, is identifying the needs. We need to know what we need to do, and that happens through discussions. That happens through conversations. We need to open up our lines of communication in a way that people feel comfortable talking, you know, across grades, through grades, to administrators, to central office. Everybody needs to feel that the communication is open and available to them so that we can literally hear each other. You know, listen with intent and be able to come together in our decision-making. One of the things for decision-making that I think it was the neatest thing I've ever seen is, I'm not sure, Adelaide Stevenson High School in Lincolnshire, Illinois, is the home of professional learning communities. Richard DeFore was the principal at this school. It's a high school of 4,200 students. And at the end of the class that I taught, I would take a busload or two, how many teachers we had, to Lincolnshire, to Adelaide Stevenson High School, and they would let us sit in on their teacher collaborative communities so we could observe how these happen. And there was one that they were upset. They were having to adopt a program that they didn't want to adopt, and to watch the teachers go through the process and hear each other, and they had a protocol, the norms were set for how they were going to discuss this with each other, was really, it's cool and enlightening. And for teachers to be able to watch other teachers solve those kind of problems together and come to a conclusion that they could all walk out of the classroom and feel comfortable with, that's powerful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you some questions on finance, operations, and staff.
Okay.
Describe your experience with budget development and financial management.
I've had a budget at almost every, even when I was a teacher, we were given a budget to work within with our academies. But when it was that budget, or whether it is the budget for my 4 districts in Leelanau County, or the budget that I was working with at the districts in Kalkaska County, or the budgets I've been given at a building level, or the budgets I developed at the district level, I tend to, again, look at exactly what the needs are. I try to stay away from the norm. We think that we need to buy or spend money on certain things because that's what we've always done. And I like to look at the monies that I've been allocated or able to work with, and look at exactly where I think the monies should be going, and direct them in a manner so that I can get the percentages that I think are where they should be, whether it's the fund balance percentage or a percentage of capital invest, whatever it is we're working with. I like to look at it with a new set of eyes, as if the money didn't have a place to go yet, it was coming in, and I would develop the budget that way. And then compare the budget that I developed against the budget that's been used, the historical data, and see how close I was to that, and maybe where we could make adjustments in our spending. And it's surprising when you look at things with a new light or a new set of eyes, that things that maybe we're spending money on in the past, we could do it differently, like with the shared investment in the ISD in the budget, or excuse me, in the business office. You know, we housed or employed a business manager, Forest Area did for years and years and years, but when she retired, if I could pay part of that and have someone from the ISD do the services, that was a huge relief for that budget. It was just a different way of looking at it. And again, it took a lot of conversation, a lot of understanding about what that was going to look like. But that was a big structural change for them that had long-lasting impact. So I think that when you're budgeting, no matter the size of the budget, it's making sure that the dollars you are able to work with are going to the needs that you're trying to address. Where you focus your energy is where you're going to get results. And that happens with budgets or with planning.
In tough financial times, how do you set priorities where there are competing interests, such as the need to implement programs for struggling students and also keep programs for the gifted students?
Well, when people talk about programs, like, we need a specific program or we need a specific software or something, to me, if I'm having to allocate dollars and I need to make sure that I'm using them to the best way that I can, and I'm doing it in a school district, and I need a program or I need something to happen, the very best investment, the very best program any building or district has are its teachers. So if I needed to spend dollars somewhere, I would look to train a teacher who had an interest in that area or was already working in that area so that I could get the results that I needed without maybe buying a program, or buying a particular software or a particular book or, curriculum. I think that when we have set amount of dollars, and we only have so many, and they need to go to certain areas to pay your bills or to pay your payroll or to do your certain thing. When we're looking to invest, our investment needs to be in people, in upping their expertise level. And then once I'm able to maybe buy a program or a specific curriculum that I think is pretty cool, then I would go to the teachers and to the people that would be implementing this program and ask them, is this something that you'd be interested in? Do you think this would get us the results? Let's look at our data. Let's look at where we're at. Is this something that we need? And make sure that it is before we make any kind of purchase.
Describe the extent of your experience in managing facilities and district operations, including the passage of bond proposals and school reconfigurations.
Okay, I've addressed a couple of those. We passed, and I say, the tech bond was passed while I was the superintendent, but nobody passes a bond by themselves. So for anyone to say that you've passed a bond, that's hard, because it takes a community, it takes the district, it takes all the stakeholders to be able to do something like that. I mean, that's a large endeavor, and it needs everybody on board. So we were able to do that with the tech bond. When it comes to managing facilities, I do it the same way as I do a curriculum or a classroom. You look at them as a whole and decide, is this exactly what we need? Could we look at it differently? Could it be I shut down the central office at Forest Area and brought it over to the middle school office where they had room, and it allowed us to be more efficient with the work that was getting done, because we had a smaller area, we had more people, we had the equipment could be less, everything. We were able to do it in a manner that really not only helped us on the budget end, but we were much more efficient with the work that we were getting done. And so those are a couple examples. The Teen Health Corner that we opened, that was adding, not always subtracting. Sometimes we need to add in order to build the supports for students. And we did that we didn't have the money to do that, so we did that through some grant funding through the local hospital. And we did a lot of grant writing to support our needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Hi. I'm going to ask questions regarding staff, union, and board relations.
Okay.
Okay, here's the first one. How would teachers and staff describe you?
I think that they would describe me as very approachable, very easy to talk to, plain speaking, and real. I try to make sure that when I'm talking to someone, that I am listening and understanding where they are at and where they're coming from.
Okay. Next question. Describe what procedures you would follow when disciplining staff. That's the first part. And then, have you terminated an individual's employment? And if so, what did you learn from the experience?
Disciplining staff, I don't like, the word discipline maybe isn't one that I would just use to describe a working relationship in which maybe you're not understanding each other's goals. If I'm working with someone and their goal is different than I think the building's goal should be or the district's goals should be, we're going to have a conversation and we're going to talk about the fact that somehow we're not connecting, or what's happening is not exactly what I think should be happening, and are we not understanding each other, or is there some disconnect to what the person thought was supposed to be happening? A lot of times when there is a disconnect, it's a miscommunication. And so we need to unearth that miscommunication and look at it and talk about it together. Yes, I've had to let people go, and it's the hardest gosh darn thing you ever do. Because you're not aligned in your goals, you have to go in different directions. And I've done it because I didn't think that the person was going in the direction that I wanted our district to go, and I've had to do it when you shut down an office building. You're consolidating your services, and that's hard too, because that was a financial need, but it had to be done in order to get this district on a solid footing. And so it's always with great care that you make those kinds of decisions.
Okay. What are some of the key practices needed to establish and maintain a good working relationship with your employees? I think you've kind of answered that one.
It's to me, it always circles back to communication. And for me, email is fabulous. You can get quick messages out. We can always let people know what we're doing. But I really like to talk face to face. And I really think, especially if someone is struggling or if they're having a great day and I get to share that great day with them, I like to talk and communicate and make sure that we understand each other and that we can support each other.
All right. Please briefly describe your experience with the new administration and educator evaluation law. In your previous service, what evaluation tools did you use and/or you were evaluated with?
Insert heavy sigh. When I was a teacher, it was the Danielson model. I think everybody, was there. And then I was actually looking forward to having a common evaluation, because having been in different districts and seeing how teachers were evaluated in different areas, it didn't make sense. Nothing really lined up, and it wasn't tied back to anything real. And so I was excited to see that we were going to have some sort of framework to evaluate teacher performance. And then the years dragged on, and then they got changed a little bit, and then it became something else, and then I think we're doing a better job with it, but I think that these models that are the suggested models, they used Danielson to evaluate me as a teacher. When I was at the ISD, I was trained on Marzano by Bob Marzano himself in his bow tie. And that one is huge. There are 100+ indicators on the Marzano model. And here we adopted the 5D. And to me, again, each of these models, the 5D is pretty darn good. It's got some good stuff in it, but it all goes back to understanding, having common goals, and being able to have conversations around those goals, and making sure that the teacher is understanding what you mean by a particular expectation and whether or not they're being supported with that particular expectation.
Okay. The last question. What are some of the key practices needed to establish and maintain a good working relationship with the board?
I enjoyed very much working with my board up north, because we were making tough decisions. We were closing buildings. We were cutting programs. We were consolidating jobs. But we kind of felt like we were all in it together, because we had this goal in front, 2-3-year goal in front of us, that we were going to get to a financial stability, to a place of financial stability. And that didn't happen through a memo or through an email. That happened with us looking at each other and communicating and understanding, and making sure that each person was able to be a part of those kinds of decisions. So communicating with the school board, to me, is important to do on a very regular basis in many different ways. Not always a formal way, but sometimes a sit down and are we moving in the direction that you want to be moving in? Am I doing the things that you would like to see done in this district? What can I do differently? Those kind of conversations are where you get the most traction, where I feel that you can really, the rubber meets the road and we can get things done. So continued communications in many different forms.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, if I could just ask one more question, please.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy touched briefly on bonds previously. Obviously, the bond issue is a large topic of conversation in our district. Could you talk to us a little bit about the previous bond, what you thought went wrong, and what you would do differently if you were to become our superintendent?
I believe, and this probably won't surprise you after hearing my answers tonight, that there needed to be an increased level of communication and understanding about what the bond issue was going to be used for, what its purpose was, where the targeted needs were, who addressed the targeted needs, where did they come from. I felt that the community as a whole didn't really have a good understanding of what we were wanting. And so with that lack of understanding became a type of animosity. Like, you want me to vote for this, but I don't know what it is you want me to vote for. And so I think if in the future, if we were looking to pass any kind of bond, that you need to make sure that the people voting on the bond know what they're voting on, and you want to make sure that the school district, your employees in the school district are able to articulate that, are able to say, this is how we came up with these ideas. These are why we want these projects addressed. These are the needs. And yes, I was asked about that, and yes, I was a part of that communication. So in the future, going forward, this community has always supported its school district, has always been, you see it at the attendance at games and how they are at our awards bank. This is a very, very supportive community, but they just didn't understand. And so going forward, I think we need to address that understanding.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to take a few minutes now to provide you with an opportunity to ask questions of the board.
First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity tonight. And I'd like to ask you, going forward, if the superintendent that you're looking for has a particular quality, has a particular drive, has a particular skill. So if you had to pick one skill that you want your new superintendent to have, what would that be?
Communication. That's mine.
Honesty.
Honesty.
Honesty. Okay.
I think leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say positive leadership.
Positive leadership. Good. And I think that's important. I still have the stage and everything. I think that's important for the community to know what the board values in their superintendent. I think that again, we all need to understand and hear each other and listen to what each other thinks is important. If we're at the end, I would like to say again, thank you. And I want to just read a little something that I have here, because I'm afraid that if I were left to my own devices, I would either get emotional or forget to say it.
Well, before don't get emotional. Let's just
I
ask.
promise.
No
I'm not
questions from
done?
Okay, I just want to make sure there weren't any more questions.
Okay,
out
all
there.
right. Now can I get
Now
emotional?
you can do it.
Okay, all right. Phew. I do feel that all my experiences have led me here to lead East China School District in a direction maybe they haven't gone before, maybe with some ideas that they haven't had before. This interview tonight means the world to me. Being a principal at Marine City High School has been a phenomenal experience. I have a great history here. You all know and understand that. And the responsibility that I would feel to do this job right would be tremendous. It would be a gift, and I would feel extremely blessed to be your next superintendent. But I want to share with you that I probably have said this a couple times. The communication is important to me, and I'm glad to hear that it's also important to you. I believe I have the skills. I believe I have the decision-making ability. I think I have experience that maybe is different than others that have come forward. I also am at a point in my career where I can offer you a very long and stable leadership. My daughter is in first grade. I have many exciting years in front of me, and with that being said, I'm hoping to share them with you, and thank you again for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
Yep.
We appreciate your interest in the position. The board is interviewing 3 candidates. We anticipate there will be conducting second interviews the week of the 17th, and we will let you know at the end of business day today when and where they're at.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.